So the idea for the Shakespeare Grounded program really came after I won the Brett Golden bursary, which is basically a really great bursary where they send 2 young South African artists to the Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford so that they can learn about Shakespeare. And you know, it was while I was there that I suddenly discovered that, when you're taught how to do it properly, Shakespeare is not that hard. And what Shakespeare is actually doing is telling stories, universal stories, stories that we can also tell the way that we want to tell them. And once our understanding of Shakespeare is analyzed and broken down and really looked at, we can play them too, which means that these universal stories could be played by anyone in any language. And so then I decided, okay, once I got home, I really wanted to empower other young artists and other young actors, particularly actors of color, to also know that they can know Shakespeare and also conquer it, so that it's not something that we're treating as though it's gold, it's elitist, only certain people can do it. We can all do it. If Romeo and Juliet can exist, so can Jabu and Sipho from Kylie Chao Guguletu, whose parents are still having taxi wars. Same thing. So then when UCT invited me to come and work with the students, I thought, okay, now is the time to figure out and to start testing out the program and to see how we can make it real for them. And so then I looked for you, and I got in touch with Buhle Ngaba, and he told me about you, and he said, there's this guy who translates. And then I thought to myself, okay, cool, we can do it in isiXhosa then. Now, my question to you is, what are some of the challenges that you found when you had to start translating it?
I am not, or I would not regard myself as part of performing arts.
Yes.
So I have never done anything in performance arts before.
Yeah.
So this was somehow
a challenge.
Very difficult. In fact, eye-opening at times, because every time I did, I attempted a translation, I would go watch the act, the scene, and then come back with
a response,
new whole
almost
terminology, a body of terminology.
Yes. And in terms of language, did you find that, because that's what I found so interesting, is because obviously we didn't just do one translation. There were actually 4 until we got to performance, and just like you're saying, where you'd come into rehearsal, you'd watch them perform it, see what the language sounded like in performance, go home, redo it, come back, and I found every time that your images just kept growing and getting more direct and kept getting clearer.
Yeah, that's because I kept on watching, and I kept on coming to terms with what actually performance is, or how I transport the word on paper to the action, the stage, and how the body language spoke to the words on paper, and how that created a whole body of meaning. And then, in terms of language and especially terminology, it had to be as formal as possible. It had to be as formal as possible due to, first, the context. We're in a royal context.
A royal context also.
Yes. And
not just any royal context. Old, now it's a closer royal context. You know what I mean?
It's closer royal context. And hence we had to go get the closer royal costume. For the actual performance. So it was quite an eye-opening day-to-day watching, and then revising, re-revising, and then again,
which I really appreciated, because what I loved also that you and I were so clear about from the beginning is that it wasn't us saying, okay, fine, so we're gonna take Macbeth here in this type of English, and then we're just gonna translate it to everyday colloquial isiXhosa that everyone's just speaking. I loved that the first time that I got that page and I read it, I was also like, this is so hard. And then when I gave it to the students and they had to do it that way, they also found it as hard as the English, which I appreciated, because it's not this thing where we just say, we're translating it so it's easier.
It's not just that anyone can just do.
Exactly.
Because it's also not that English that anyone can do.
Say. Exactly.
I loved how the students wanted to be part of that specific course.
Yes.
How they when I thought maybe it was too hard for them, they would say, but Fundile, I want to challenge myself.
Exactly.
I want this one.
Which
Because I
shows-
always gave them the room to say, how would you want to say it?
Yes.
But they would say, no. I'll go with what
Yeah.
you came up with.
Which
So,
shows
yeah.
us preservation and
Yeah.
language also, how important language is.
Yes.
And also because for us as everyday Setswana, Xhosa, Zulu speakers to also start to realize that, we also have words that are very, very in-depth and beautiful. And also because Shakespeare relies so much on imagery, and because we're working specifically here with Macbeth, so the images of the knife and the blood and the seas and to hear all of that in our languages was also so beautiful.
That was part of that was my initial challenge,
Yes.
because they used a whole lot of imagery
Imagery,
in what
exactly.
in what they're saying. So I had to keep going back.
To the imagery.
Yeah. So ndisebenzise izati namaqhalo esiXhosa.
Yes.
Yeah, that are as equivalent
Yes.
of the English. It's not the day-to-day
Yes.
language Xhosa, but
Yes.
it was language buried in izati.
Yes.
Namaqhalo,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
No, you did such an amazing job. Thank you.